All right, so this is part two of question and answer from Walter in Sydney, Australia. So one thing I meant to mention in the last interview, but didn't, was that the question was about how many lifetimes we have. One thing that I was shown was that a number of the people I know in my current life, like this is their last lifetime. They're not coming back again after this. And based on the numbers of people that I saw who aren't coming back, that leads me to believe that there's a lot of people in the world today that they're on their last life. They're not coming back here after this. And just looking at the numbers, that leaves me to believe also that the number of lives that people have is significantly less than 500. Like I think typically for most people, I think 50 might be a maximum. I don't know, but that's kind of the ballpark numbers that I think a typical soul would be looking at. But again, I don't know for sure. That's just my impressions based on what I saw. All right, so the next question from Walter. Uh, when you say God talked to you, is that the collective voice of all the millions of beings in the sun-like face of God? Basically, yes. There was a unique personality that was all powerful, all knowing, very, very loving and kind and compassionate, that I took for God. And that entity, I think, encompasses all of the other souls uh, that are part of this universe, but also maintains like its own personality, its own unique characteristics, that is just more wonderful than I could possibly describe. But that's kind of how I see God. Um, I think all those souls that are part of God, they like submit to God, and they they give they accept that God is in charge and God is leading them, but they're still part of God at the same time. So it's kind of like I view it as the best of both worlds. God is like a unique uh, individual characteristic or personality, but at the same time, every soul in the universe is part of God. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. All right. By extension, does that mean that there is a piece of God in every living being? So yes, that's how I view it. I view that every soul out there is like a little bitty piece of God that has gone on an adventure, and that everything in this physical universe, every atom, every photon, bacteria, everything, I view all of it as a part of God, and that um, we're all part of God. Everything around us is part of God, and that, as I understand it, there's nothing that exists that's outside of God. And if you start to get into the physics of some of this stuff, I think that becomes self-evident as well. You start looking at the subatomic particles and how all that works. It looks kind of to me like it's just light folded in itself, and that all of it's just like a part of God. At least that's how I see it. Why do you think that the qualities such as kindness, compassion, care, love, forgiveness are valued by the heavenly beings? So when I had my interaction with God, God was loving, compassionate, kind, honest, forgiving, accepting, empathetic, all of that stuff. That is who God is. And we're all a tiny piece of God. And so, um, for us to realize our full potential and to maximize our happiness and to be the kind of souls that we really need to be, we need to freely embrace those same characteristics because that's just who we are. And it's kind of like we're just discovering who we are. And that's kind of the reason I think it's so valuable is that's just who God is, and it's who we are, and it's up to us to figure that out and to accept that. And when we do, we really stand to reap the benefits and enjoy our existence so much more than what we're currently going through. Um, is my behavior a boomerang? What I give out, I receive back. I love it that the question from Australia includes a boomerang. If I don't receive it back in this life, I may receive it back in a future life. And Walter goes on to say, do you think likewise that when we give out love and kindness in this life, it will return to us in our current life, in another life, or maybe even in our lives in the spiritual realm? All right, so I think this is probably the best question I've ever gotten. The short answer is yes. What we give out, we receive back. And it's not that hard to realize that, hey, I should be good to other people because I'm going to receive that back. But it's also important to remember that not only are you going to receive back what you give out, as you give out good things, you're going to receive interest on that. Like God's going to give you interest on what you give back. You know, you invest money in the bank, you might get a small interest on that investment. Well, when God's giving you interest, you get a good rate. Okay, I think it's something like 10 to 1. As we give out something good, we're going to get something back 10 times better. Um, I think as we give out bad things, as we hurt other people, we're going to end up receiving that back. But as we give out good things, we're going to receive that back tenfold. And a lot of people uh, they learn about karma and they understand that what we do in one life affects the other one. So they become very focused on, well, I must have screwed up in a past life, and that's why I'm receiving so many bad things in my current life. That may be true, but I think a better way to look at this is, well, in this current life, I have a huge opportunity. I could do good things to other people. I could invest in other people, and I could work the karmic system in my own favor and help others, and then I'm going to receive back with interest what I've given out. And I think that's a good way to look at life and to take advantage of this tremendous opportunity that people who understand how this all works, um, you've got a good opportunity in front of you to just be good to other people, to do what you can to be kind, compassionate, loving, forgiving, empathetic, honest, all those kind of traits to engage in acts of service or try to help other people in whatever way you can. And by doing that, you stand to reap a huge benefit in potentially a future life or in the spiritual realm, or more likely in both. But but yes, what we do, we receive back, and I saw that very clearly in my experience, both good ways in which I received something back and bad ways. It works both ways. So use your wisdom and act wisely and be good to other people so that you can get a benefit. I heard you say in an interview that people who live in wealthier countries such as the USA and Australia do so because their actions in past lives. This is why some people are born in more comfortable countries rather than in countries where the living conditions are less comfortable or more dangerous. Can you please expand on this? Yeah, so when we come here as a soul, uh, we basically have nothing, like literally nothing. We're just born into this world with without anything, and it's up to us to build and make our own home, to find water and food and to build a society and a functioning government and to have the rule of law and to help each other. And as we work and we help those around us and we do some kind of job that benefits society and we engage in proper, conduct and pay our taxes or whatever we're supposed to do in life, as we do that through progressive iterations, we're able to move to more and more comfortable settings. Uh, if you think back thousands of years ago before any kind of civilization, like, people were just gathering food from the ground and trying to find water. Life was very difficult. But by engaging in, uh, you know, positive behaviors that are helpful to others and building a functioning society and respecting the rule of law and whatnot, we've been able to build more and more advanced civilizations and build more and more comfortable lives. And the souls that have put in the work to help build those societies, they're able to reap the benefits. The souls that haven't contributed as much in the past, well, they're just starting out now, but they're on the same kind of path that souls who have been around longer are on, and that as they contribute to society, as they help those around them, as they respect the rule of law, they do whatever they're supposed to do to help their families and their community and their country. Well, through progressive lives, they will build more and more comfortable lives for themselves and for those around them. And another aspect of this I saw was that those that are born into wealthier countries where life is maybe more comfortable or easier, or they have more power, or they're using more resources, well, there's also a responsibility for that. Like there's a tremendous responsibility for a lot of these people in high level positions that are controlling resources and money and that kind of thing. And for those that abuse that privilege and they misuse resources or money or power, well, they might have those privileges, those comfortable lives. They might not have that same opportunity in the future, and they might find themselves back in a maybe a less developed country, a lifetime that's not as comfortable. So it's important to remember that not only do we need to um, put forth the effort to build society, but that also comes with responsibility. And if we abuse that responsibility, we're going to find ourselves back in a less comfortable situation. If comfortable lives are given to those who have already developed their loving skills, then is a comfortable life really the best environment to strengthen that soul's loving skills? Wouldn't a more difficult and challenging life be more effective in strengthening that soul's capacity for compassion, understanding, forgiveness, and care? So when we first start out, life is a lot more difficult. When souls first started coming here and living in the harsh environments, the kind of traits that they were trying to learn, just to gather food, to raise children, they're very basic stuff. And as we've progressed, we've become to where we're working on more refined skills, such as not being passive aggressive or not accidentally offending somebody, that kind of thing. And it's kind of like a uh, different level of difficulty. So I view it kind of like if you're polishing a stone, you might first start out with the rough sandpaper, and then you get into finer and finer sandpaper as you're trying to polish that stone. And eventually, at the final polishing, it's a very smooth cloth you would use to polish that stone. And I view these progressive lives kind of like that. When we get to a certain point of development, we don't really need to struggle with hot and cold or getting clean water or having enough food. We're going to be more focused on the finer tuned aspects of our development, like not accidentally insulting people or effective communication or um, taking into account someone's wants and needs that are maybe difficult to ascertain, that sort of thing. So those base difficulties of a difficult life, they're not necessarily needed as you move into the higher and higher levels. The kind of difficulties you need are more refined and more nuanced. On Facebook, you wrote, "I was directly told that I would help two dogs during my life with their spiritual progression. Can you please tell us more about this? How were you going to help these dogs? And tell us more about animals having spiritual journeys like us. Can animals' souls also become part of the face of God that you saw?" All right, so um, one of the one of the big questions I had before I came into this life is I wanted to know how do those around me, how are they going to see me after we live this life? And so I was able to see how a number of different people that I worked with and people that I would know in life, how they would view me after this life. Um, and one of the things I saw was that there was two dogs that I would be having an impact on that would be part of my life. These are two dogs that I had as an adult. And at the time, the way I saw these dogs was the black dog and then the smaller black dog, which fits to how these dogs are in my life, what they look like. But how was I able to help these dogs? Just by loving them, by raising them, by having them as companion pets. They were able to live their life and face the challenges that they needed to face and, love my family. And that was able to help them with their progression. Um, it was pretty clear through what I saw with my dogs and some other unrelated uh, things that I saw about other animals during my near-death experience that all of these animals are on a spiritual journey, kind of like ours. Now, the obvious question I think is, well, are animal souls and people souls the same, or is there any kind of difference? And I don't know. I'm not sure. I wish I knew that answer, but I don't. But I do know that animals are on a spiritual path like humans, and we're on our own spiritual path. Can animal souls also become part of the face of God? Yeah, I think so. I think eventually animals are going to reach whatever highest level they need to reach, and they'll be able to, quit coming back to Earth just like humans can. Um, so I wouldn't think that would be that hard to accept because it was so obvious. I guess when you see this stuff for yourself, it's so obvious. But maybe it's difficult for other people to accept that animals have souls just like us. But that's exactly what I saw. Can you please tell us when you were told you would have two dogs during your life? Okay, so during my near-death experience, I saw parts of how my life was planned out. This was stuff that had happened before I was born. I like re-experienced uh, the planning stage for this life. And so that's when I saw that I would help these two dogs out. Aside from helping these two dogs, were you given any other missions or things that you had to do in life on Earth? Yeah, there's all kinds of things that were planned out for this life, things I would be doing, people I would be helping, struggles I would be facing and hopefully overcoming, temptations I would need to resist, all kinds of stuff. There was a whole lot of things for this life planned out, and it was more than just helping these two dogs. But uh, I think the dog part of it, I think, is important to recognize that hey, it's more than just people that we're dealing with here. Some of my Buddhist friends are trying to convince me to become vegetarian as they do not believe in harming sentient beings. I can sense that you do have love and care for animals. Do you think it is necessary for one to be vegetarian in order to show care and not harm them? I don't want to become vegetarian. I also want to do the right thing. All right. So I think this is a question that everybody needs to answer for themselves. Me personally, I'm a vegetarian now. I so this started years ago. We were on the eastern shore of Virginia, which is an area that has a whole lot of chicken farms. They process all kinds of chicken, and we passed a chicken truck, and there was thousands and thousands of chickens in little metal cages just crammed in there, and they looked terrible. And I realized that this isn't something that I personally wanted to be part of. Like I didn't feel like these animals were being treated well at all. Not even basic treatment. And for that reason, I decided I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to eat chicken anymore. And um, I think it's very important that we take care of animals, that we treat them with compassion and kindness. And I just don't really see that in the food industry. But that's for me. I think it's important that everyone else make their own decision about, how they want to treat animals, whether or not they think being a vegetarian is appropriate. I think that's a personal decision, and I'll leave it to every individual to reach their own conclusions. And then likewise, they're going to get their own consequences of whatever decisions they make in life. I'm now thinking that I shouldn't eat animals because if they have spiritual progression similar to us, then by eating them, I may be interrupting their current life and their current opportunity to learn lessons and fulfill any missions or to grow spiritually. Um, yeah, I can understand that. If you eat an animal, are you robbing it of the possibility of living a full life? I think there's a couple flip sides there. One is that for some of these animals, that could be, that's what they are meant to be. They came here to feed other people. Like that is their spiritual progression. You see this in the wild all the time, animals eating each other. Um, Also, God is if a soul doesn't get the full experience it needs in one life, God's going to provide other lives for it. And so these animals are going to have further opportunity to continue their spiritual progression. Like none of them are going to be left behind and without the opportunity to continue to progress. Um, but again, being a vegetarian or not, I think that's a question that you've got to answer. I can't answer it for you. I can only answer it for myself. You also mentioned that you are a passionate hunter on Facebook. Okay, so I think there was some confusion here. I'm not a hunter. I've never been a hunter. I'm not sure where that came from, but I don't hunt. So anyway, so Walter, I hope this answers your questions. Again, I'll pause here briefly to show all the questions that was asked, and there's some additional detail in there that someone might be interested in. So I'm going to share that in case you're interested. Great. So, thanks for listening. Walter, I hope I've answered your questions. And if anyone has any other questions they want me to answer like this, feel free to send them and I'll do my best. I'm easy to reach at aarongreen1975 at gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Aaron Thomas Green. Um, Thanks for listening.